when you looked at the products that you moved or were considering moving at the time, and when that you ultimately moved, did you look at, you mentioned the roadmap that you had with IBM potentially, and some of that might have been forced upon you. Were there any needs? Was there a need to make some changes, make it what we call enhancements to the products in the future? Were you worried about that you might be able to?
Well, we knew that for a lot of IBM products in that area, there would be no further developments. And so either we would sort of freeze any new enhancement and stabilize it, or if there were any enhancements we wanted to do, it would just be, for example, adding an additional business unit to the system, which could be done by our own integrators and engineers. So that would be okay. We knew that for the product we selected to move into third-party software, that the future of those products in the company was limited.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you probably, because we have, you probably know that we have probably developed a little bit of extra expertise around that anyway. We can elongate products. We have an enhanced program now for customers who often find themselves with the intention of moving away from products at a shorter window of 2 or 3 years, perhaps. And now that 2 or 3 years runs to 4 or 5 years, and they may need to make changes. So I think for companies thinking about it who might think I can only use it for where don't need enhancements, there are ways we can actually enhance the product. But that's interesting that that was the way you made decisions at the time. And you made the decision in September about 17. Were there any, was the time to migrate, because it wasn't an issue, or time before the end of the IBM contract, were any of those of concern to you at the time before you made the final decision?
No, because honestly, I think for one of the products, we kept the contracts in parallel for a while. I think for the second one, not for the first. It was a cutoff. We stopped with IBM and we went with you. But for the second product, I think we overlapped even for a while.
Okay, that was quite a clever thing to do. So you started a little bit earlier with us, left it at the time, so that you got a chance to do a nice smooth transition. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Or even though we did start a transition early enough, I think, but still we were like, okay, we are ready now, and let's just go for it.
That's a very clever idea. Was that your idea or ours?
I don't know. Maybe the technical guys on our side.
Yeah. I don't remember. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. No, that sounds like a very good idea, actually, to be honest with you. And when you started to circulate this around, can we just maybe talk a little bit about some of the people that might have been, and I don't know whether you had many, within the organizations that you described how you told the story. I think that's a really, really good way of doing it. When you got, did you get any pushback from people? Did you get any either flippant, we never do that, or you can't do this, or did you get any of that within the organization?
No, and I think that's the strength of telling a good story. I mean, you want to know what ultimately your customer wants, and as a procurement officer, your customer in this case is the IT department, and what do they want is in the end that the rest of the company says that IT is doing a good job in keeping our systems up and running, in giving us the support we need when we have a question, in making those enhancements that we need when we need them. And that's the main accelerator for these kind of decisions. If you know, okay, you can get the same level of service, you can continue to make your IT customers happy, your business customers happy, and you will pay less, it becomes a no-brainer for management. There are hardly any arguments they can bring from an IT management perspective on why not to do this. But it's important that and that's what we did. And I really liked that approach, because of course I was, as a procurement officer, I was within IT. I was not the purchasing department. And probably I had the advantage there because I knew the engineers. I could engage with them directly. I could bring them in some of our meetings. I could set up conversations between Toyota engineers and Origina engineers to discuss, look, how is your support approach going? What can you bring us? How would it work in this case? They would walk through scenarios together. And in the end, the engineers on my side became ambassadors for going to third-party software maintenance under very clear conditions. I mean, we would never do it for a business critical system that was still in heavy production, where we would still develop or we would still enhance in the future. We knew that was a no-no. Neither would we do it for tools that were ultimately would be switched off, but where the switch off and even the fact that you would have a downtime would not really impact your operations. Also there, we wouldn't do, we would just cancel maintenance altogether. But in this almost golden area in the middle, where we had certain criteria, and aligning on those criteria with your engineering team, with IT engineering teams, with input from IT business, ideally.
Yeah.
What do they expect? Could they, are they happy with the current version? Do they still expect to enhance there? Do they understand that maybe the software vendor will come to them to show their product with all those brilliant new gizmos?
Yeah.
Are they aware of the alternatives that IT can offer to them? So that kind of conversations, I think, are very important. You really want to be, as a procurement person, be engaging with that IT customer to get as much as possible arguments from them, not arguments you bring as a procurement officer, but arguments from IT to bring that story to management.
And you mentioned there, Stephen, that you had, if it was a production system, that was heavy production system, that would be a no-no.
Yeah.
Then would you say that would still be a no-no today? Or do you think, because the industry has moved on, and obviously when we would have engaged with you, I would have been totally supportive. There is now an argument, and we have customers who have moved heavy production systems. Now, it does require a lot more resources, a lot more due diligence and analysis, even greater than you would have been doing. Yeah. And clearly issues that may not come up under normal circumstances definitely come up in those production. Do you think Toyota, and not that we're, because obviously pretty much, I'm just curious to know, what's your mindset now? Is the mindset the same, do you think? Or do you think your organization, given what you've already done, if a scenario like that was on the table with any organization, would you be open to looking at it?
Definitely, yes. More and more, I'm not saying that we are less wary of risks that we would have. I'm definitely not saying that, but I do think that organizations evolve, and across the world, across organizations, you continue to have this push to reduce running costs, especially on older systems. More and more IT departments get involved in all kinds of products that have almost nothing to do with core IT anymore. You support the digitalization of your business functions. Ultimately, your business doesn't care on what type of middleware the system is running, or on what kind of storage platform that system is being managed. They just care it needs to be up and running 24/7 because I have customers placing orders online, or doing transactions online, or my factories are connected to the internet for preventive maintenance purposes. That's what they care about. And as the quality of third-party services and the breadth of the level of the type of services that companies like yourself offer has changed so much over the years. I think, again, that's the story we want to tell gets adapted. And there's much more openness even for production systems. I wouldn't be surprised that you have customers where their production facilities are running on IBM software, and that you're doing the third-party maintenance, that there's no direct relationship with IBM anymore.
Yeah, and we are, and Do you know one of the things that's interesting about that is that you talk about kind of worries and risk and stuff. One of the things that we've heard increasingly is that actually they're worried about IBM supporting them, and not just IBM. This is like when the big publishers are divesting, perhaps in some cases, and selling off the products, or not investing the same level of skill in the development of the product. The worry of the users is that actually they don't know if they could call, if they really have that issue. You talked about the car insurance earlier. If they have that problem, are they going to be able to fix the problem?
Exactly.
And the days of nobody got fired for buying IBM, that's a saying, but actually it doesn't really apply anymore to any organization. Every company's got to look and say, actually, what's really going on here? Because they might get a reaction, but they may not get the reaction they would like to get. So I'm curious to know a little bit about whether security was an issue that you had that was raised, because it's often one that we hear across from feedback with companies, and we have an approach to that which we've developed quite nicely over the last couple of years. But in our case in 2017, when you were making the first decision and maybe the decisions you made subsequently, how frequently was security or vulnerability raised as an issue within your organization?
It was less of a concern. Of course, we still did have a relationship with IBM for other products, just like we had with other suppliers where we went for third-party software maintenance. So of course, we made people aware of the risk, that we would be in another type of support. But also there we understood that and that we had to do it for another product, not with you guys. We had to go back to the software vendor because we did want to upgrade at that point. And let's be honest, they're happy to see you. They're happy to welcome you back. They're not going to refuse doing business with you.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the thing? People often think that the door would be closed. It's like the question we talked about earlier. What were you worried about IBM's reaction? And it is often, there is a fear of the big provider that they're going to almost punish the company for making a decision against what they normally would expect it to make.
They will not close the door. I mean, if you knock, they will open. If you want to do business with companies like the IBMs, the SAPs of this world, of course they will not refuse you. One risk, and even there, I mean, you could be fast-tracked for like a software audit. But in any case, the IBMs and the SAPs of this world, they come knocking on your door for an audit every 2-3 years anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, killing a contract with them will not delay it or will not prevent it from happening. It may be 6 months earlier, but they will come anyway.
Yeah. No. And it's what we see it all the time. Even companies that said to us, we might have a small conversation. They walk away. They come back. We were audited anyway, even though they weren't even. We didn't even do any business together. So it happens anyway. Yeah, you're absolutely right.